So hello and welcome back to another week of exploring Azeroth with Beryl, and sometimes Onyx, but probably not Onyx this week because everything in the, I almost called this the Twilight Highlands, everything in Mount Hyjal is actually neutral. There's nothing that's actually either Horde or Alliance, so it's just as easy to use our girl Beryl, who is chilling out on top of this dragon's head. Because of course she is. It looks like a good spot to just kind of kick back. You can look up and see Nordrasil up there and everything behind her. Now, a little bit of a confession. I don't do that much in the Mount Hyjal zone. I did it for Lore Master. I mean, you know, you gotta do the zones so that you can get Lore Master. But I did it way back when Kata first dropped. I mean, I went through the zone, I finished the zone, I had a good time in it. But it just never called me back the way some of the other areas did. So I went through Mount Hyjal looking for anything weird, unusual, extra cool, and didn't really find a whole heck of a lot. So I think what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna tell you all about the lore and history of Mount Hyjal, courtesy of Wowipedia and Wowhead, because, you know, it is what it is, and we'll just kind of talk about each little area here in Mount Hyjal as we get to it. So, according to Wowipedia, the massive frosted peak of Mount Hyjal, that way up there, was the original refuge and sacred place of the wild gods, and it was protected and watched over by Freya shortly after the ordering of Azeroth. The Dark Trolls, the ancestors of the Night Elves, used to live in the deep caverns under Mount Hyjal. Now, the Night Elves, the Kaldorei, have long held the mountain as sacred, and it remained untouched by their empire by order of Queen Azshara. The public believed that this was out of respect for the strong ties that the mountain had with nature, but in actuality, Queen Azshara secretly was afraid of the wild gods that lived on it. When the first Well of Eternity was destroyed way back in the War of Ancients, the implosion triggered the Great Sundering, and Mount Hyjal made it through, but the Night Elven, the world was sundered, but Mount Hyjal made it through. Some of the Night Elves had escaped to the summit. They came out to rebuild their society, though one without arcane magic. Except for, a few of them that were still into the idea of arcane magic. After the Sundering, Illidan made a new Well of Eternity on top of Mount Hyjal, which I think you can actually visit. I know you can visit it in the Caverns of Time. I don't know if you can visit a physical location here in-game or not. But yeah, Illidan made a new Well of Eternity, and for that he was imprisoned in the Barrow Dens, which we will end up going to. The other big thing here in Mount Hyjal that is probably the only reason I know anything in the area at all is the Firelands raid. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, and I feel like it's been lowered a little bit, but the Firelands raid is quite possibly my favorite money-making raid in the game. You can run through and there are so many trash mobs and they drop so much stuff that's worth gold. I think my record was one time I made about 5,000 gold. And that's not even, that's just straight selling stuff to vendors. I probably could make more if I just actually used the auction house wisely, but I'm not good at that. So here's the entrance here at the Throne of Flame, and it's a fun raid. If you haven't done it, it's well worth it, both on heroic and normal mode. Um, and you can get some pretty cute little pets. In fact, I ran through right before I started recording this, and what did I get? I got another Cinderweb Recluse Spider and another Blazehound, which I'll probably end up either giving to somebody if I run into anyone that doesn't have them in Stormwind, or I'll just see if anyone wants them on the auction house, because I get them a lot. Probably because, like I said, it's one of those raids that I really enjoy doing on a regular basis. So here below us is the Flame Wake. I think the other reason that I don't come back to Mount Hyjal other than to do the raid is so much of Mount Hyjal is phased. And if you remember, I'm pretty sure Cataclysm was the first time that they really introduced phasing as well. And, well, I enjoy the whole idea of phasing. It's also a huge pain in the rear end. So, I just don't come here nearly as often as I possibly should. Also, there's no houses. I'm always so disappointed if I can't find any good houses in a zone. And Mount Hyjal really doesn't have any, which is sad. What it does have is a really fun quest where you're rescuing the cute little creatures for a dryad and putting out fires, and this was a very fun quest chain. I do remember that. But yeah, here in the Grove of Onyx, which you would think that there would at least be houses here, but no, just a lot of night elf ruins, which makes me very sad. Also, my cat is going absolutely crazy in the background. He has decided that now that he's eaten, it's time to play Crazy Kitty. Yep, there he goes. You gotta love your animals, but at the same time, they're also a little bit nuts. Oh, before I forget, also right in the area of the burned out woods is a very cute quest chain that, if you're in the right phase, becomes a daily quest, and I do believe also gives you a couple of different pets. And that is rescuing bear cubs from a tree. It's so much fun. You end up bouncing on this trampoline here, going up and rescuing the babies, who are very, very cute. And their poor moms are so worried about them. So, if you haven't done it, go rescue the babies. Also, I don't remember how to get to it, but there's a fun jousting quest. Normally I don't enjoy mounted combat quests in World of Warcraft, at least not pre-Dragonflight, but I do remember it was a lot of fun, and that's also one that awards you with a pet, so totally worth it. Here we are at the Shrine of Goldrin, who is one of the wild gods. I'm pretty sure he is the wolf wild god. You can check him out right here. There's also a lot of Lycanthroth, who are not Worgen, although they do look like them. I'm pretty sure that these guys are, and correct me down in the comments if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure these guys are actually night elves that are afflicted by the Worgen curse. But I could be wrong. Like I said, I get wrong about a lot of things. I do remember that you have to help put the wild god to rest. I don't remember if you just free their spirit or if you actually have to defeat and take out the wild god. Like I said, it's been a very long time since I've done much in this area. I really need to come back and see these quests again. So this was where I was holding out hope for an actual house, but nope, no houses in the Shrine of Avinia. I was so hopeful because it looked like both of these should be little night elf apartments, but they're not. They're just little cute, like, study rooms. Which, don't get me wrong, they're cool, but I do like the regular night elf houses in the tops of the trees. Also, I found out something kind of interesting about this tree itself. If you're on a flying mount, that's as high as you can go. You run into an invisible wall right there, and then once you get out past the invisible wall, you can go up all the way to the tippy top of this tree, which is really, really high. We'll go all the way up. Like, way up there. There's no point to going up here. It's just kind of for fun. But yeah, there's an invisible wall in this tree, and I don't know why. And it's above the tree a little bit, too. Interesting. Any theories would be welcome. You can actually go all the way to the top of Nordrassil if you want to, and I did earlier, and there's no real point in doing it, although there is some interesting branch work up here. Like, you could almost hold a party up in these branches. It's no wonder why Teldrassil ended up having an entire city built up in the branches, because you could probably build at least a nice house here. Pitch your tent, have a party. Not that there's any real reason to do so, but I found it interesting. Now, if you do remember, I did mention the Barrow Dens, which is where Illidan was kept back in Warcraft 3, I do believe. And that is right back here in the Verdant Thicket. You can come right back here and go past the ruins of La Dinar into the Verdant Thicket and the Hyjal Barrow Dens. These are actually a really extensive barrow den, and I like them because they're actually laid out a little bit different than most of the other Night Elf barrow dens. You know, you got little bedrooms in each one where all of those druids can just hang out and snooze. Now, there is a lot of questing that you have to do down here for the Mount Hyjal quest chain, but I just get a kick out of it because it's kind of cool looking, and you have all of the guardians who just look like little carbon copies of Maiev. So hey, that's always exciting. But yeah, if you look around, it's a pretty big barrow den here. And instead of Illidan down here now, they've got Archdruid Fandril Staghelm, who I do believe is the one that corrupted Teldrassil back in the day. And you'll see him again in the Firelands raid after he somehow escapes, and I don't really remember how. Because I don't think it was us that did it, but it's been a hot minute since I did this thing. Anyway, our last stop is Nordrassil, which has a wonderful portal to this day. I think it used to have more portals. It used to be kind of more like the Stormwind portal room back in the way back when, but now it just has a portal to whichever one your main city is. Also, I could hang out down here if it wasn't for all the Twilight Assassins. That's an actually really cool barrow den. Also, you can actually fish down there, and there are some unique fish down there, so it's always a thing if you are interested. So yeah, we're just going to make our way to Nordrassil, and because of that phasing that I mentioned, Nordrassil for me is a bit of a pain. Alright, off we go to visit Nordrassil. I do feel kind of bad that I don't have as much to talk about as far as Mount Hyjal, because lore-wise, it's a fantastic zone. I just, for whatever reason, it didn't really gel with me, and I feel bad about that. But as you can see, I'm still stuck in some BFA phase. I have no idea what I did or who I have to kill to get rid of this BFA phase. It's a little bit annoying, especially because I was trying to do a pet battle thing, and because of the phasing, everything kept phasing out. Very, very annoying. But yeah, I do like, you can, if you really wanted to claim a house, although this would be the most pathetic house ever, but there is actually a cute little night elf bed in a tent over here. So if all else fails, this is as close as Mount Hyjal gets to having houses. Honestly, you're better off just heading back to Winter Spring, where there's at least a very cool night elf house. So here we're at the Nordersill Inn, which doesn't have any inn-like functions, except for the fact that you get rest experience. But there are some Hyjal wardens, there's a really cool fish on the wall. You know, your very typical thing. And there's Magni. He is here just to annoy me because I don't know actually what it is that I need to do to get rid of this stupid Azeroth Leviathan that I've killed about 1.5 bazillion times. But like I said, that's kind of the issue with the whole phasing thing. It's kind of annoying. At least in my mind it is. Alright, where are we going next week? I think... Have we already done Azara? I think we might actually be completely done with Kalmandor. I'm going to go back and look through all of my Exploring Azeroth videos, because if we're actually done with Kalmandor, then we only have one more video, and that would be all of the player tributes and memorials across Kalmandor. And then we're going to be moving on, entering the Dark Portal, figuratively, and heading off into, drumroll please, we will be heading to Outland. I'm trying to keep this mostly according to expansion, unless of course it's something like Mount Hyjal, where it's just right there on the continent. We can't really skip it. Anyway, Outland holds a special place in my heart because Outland is what was new and exciting when I first started playing World of Warcraft. And there's nothing that can compare with the remembered terror of the Fel Reaver. So, like I said, I'm going to do a double check, make sure that I've actually done a video for every one of the areas in Kalmandor. I'm pretty sure I have. I feel like I have done all of Kalmandor now. I don't know how that happened. Anyway, so I will be back next week, if that is the case, doing a video on player memorials and things like that on Kalmandor. But until then, from me, and Beryl, and Onyx, who is still not with us at the moment, have an awesome day, and I will see you next week.